everyone, welcome to another episode of Your Brain on Hops. Today with me, as always,
I'm Alex.
Dan.
And today we'll be talking about Southern Tier Brewing. This is kind of a part two from our last episode where we talked about Victory. And the main reason we wanted to do these back to back was because of that recent merger that they had, forming that kind of holding company, artisanal brewing ventures. So today we're going to be tasting some Southern Tier brews and kind of relating it back to that whole Victory episode we had last time. Starting off, we'll have the IPA. This is Southern Tier's flagship beer. It's been around since 2002 when the brewery was first opened up.
Yeah, I think when they first opened up their original brewery, their three beers were a Pilsner, a mild, and an IPA. So I'm wondering, my thought is, I wonder if this is the exact same beer that they started off brewing, or if it has changed to what it is now.
Oh, rather, yeah. That's a good question. And unfortunately, IPA is one of those styles you do not want to age. So even if you did find an IPA from 2002...
It would be 100% different.
Not in a good way.
This is a really good IPA, though. It's so clean, and it's got a nice little malt sweetness in there, a little caramel sweetness in there, but like it's just piney and citrusy, like grapefruit. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it does mix those citrus and floral notes as well. I normally don't like too much maltiness and sweetness in my beer, but I think this one does a really good job of getting just enough in there, but not sacrificing the bitterness that really defines an IPA.
Right, it's just enough to balance it. And Dan's looking at his glass like he doesn't know.
I got nothing.
He seems very distrustful. Dan, do you think this is good to drink at 55 degrees?
I think it is very, absolutely. I think it's 55 degrees is the most perfect temperature you could possibly drink this beer at. It's a good IPA, especially at 55 degrees. A good IPA.
So we were looking through Untappd comments, and so we decided to see some Untappd comments on Southern Tier Brews. And it's kind of a fun thing to look through, but we saw one that just mentioned nothing really about the beer, just the beer was good.
But
so that
specific.
It was good. Yeah, it was good at 55 degrees, so it's a good drinking temperature, I guess.
Which I'm actually trying to see if they have on their site what to drink this at, and all they've got is their cellaring temperature, which is 40 to 45. So the guy even then is technically still off.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it's only good.
That's why.
And not great. So he already screwed up a good beer. A great beer.
Turn down the air conditioning, get it to 40, 45.
That's right.
Unlike, Mary apparently on Untappd who said, it was too sweet, not enough bitterness. All right, not that hoppy. I was like, what? No. I think yours was just old. It was probably actually aged for too long.
She had one of the originals.
From 2002.
And that's a good point, actually, with IPAs, is my theory is that she was tasting it on the West Coast, which means she'd be used to more of a West Coast IPA, which has a lot more bitterness and doesn't have the kind of maltiness that a beer like this has. So to someone like that, I could see this being a little too sweet.
Yeah, I agree. One
thing I do like about this beer is it's just so common in bars. So if I'm out, a lot of times, if there's not that great of a beer selection, there's a Blue and a Bud. A lot of times we'll also have a Southern Tier, and oftentimes that is a Southern Tier IPA. So I have a good beer to fall back on.
Yeah, I agree. I think whenever I see Southern Tier out at a bar, that's what it is. It's usually the IPA.
I was actually out at a happy hour the other day with some friends from work, and the Southern Tier IPA was there, and it's one of the beers I got. But we wanted to do a standard happy hour, maybe an hour long, have a beer or two. And the topic of drinking speeds came up because about a half hour in, a buddy of mine had gone through 2 beers, and he was like, guys, I don't want to go bankrupt going to happy hours, so I could probably finish 4 or so and be okay at the end of an hour. And another friend of mine said, well, I'm about halfway through with my beer, a half hour in, so I'm just gonna drink one and then head off. So there is a pretty big difference there when it comes to drinking speeds and what certain people can do, which made me think, do you guys, do you regulate yourselves at all when you're out? Either at a, it could be just any bar, it could be a specific craft beer bar. Like if you're at Aurora Brew Works, there's a lot of different options there. So obviously, if you drink a lot, you're not going to run out of stuff to drink. But do you guys regulate yourself at all, or?
I think it depends on what I'm drinking. If I'm if it's something that's like this, if it's like the live, I think I tend to drink it a lot faster, and it's just refreshing. So I'm just kind of, maybe I'm thirsty, maybe it's hot out, and I just want something that's nice and smooth. If I find it to be maybe a higher ABV, something heavier, maybe a lot more sugar to it, I sit there and I sip it slowly, and it takes me a lot longer. And like we've run into this conundrum if we're all out together drinking, and it's like one bar's closing, but we're not done with the end of the night. We still want to go do something, and then we're all ready to cash out, but we've all got different levels of beer in our glasses. And then the one guy stands there and he goes, "Well, he's got a full beer still. I'm just going to go get another one, knowing I'm going to drink this faster than he is, and then we'll be on our merry way."
Yeah. Now, does that mean that you kind of choose a beer style based on what you want to go for? So you think, okay, I want to pace this out, maybe have this beer last a half hour, an hour. I'm going to choose something maybe in the close to 10% range, maybe a stout, maybe a barley wine, something I can sip.
I don't think even a 10% beer has ever lasted me an hour.
That's true.
Maybe max I've pushed it half hour, something like that. And then usually probably in between, someone by that time has also handed me another glass of saying, "Oh, hey, try this." And now I found myself with more glasses. And then actually probably that's what slows me down the most.
Yeah, it seems to happen a lot at Aurora Brew Works.
Oh, absolutely. You sit there, and the other night, I wasn't even drinking. I actually wanted water the other night. And then the first thing the girl does is she goes, "Oh, no, here, try this." And I get a full glass of beer. And I'm like, "Well, can I get the water?" And then before she can even get me my water, there's 5 tasting glasses of beer in front of me. And I really didn't actually want to drink that much that night. And someone came up and was like, "Are those all yours?" And I'm like, I think so. I haven't even touched the first one she actually gave me. I'm not sure what to do. I guess I better just slug them back and just live with the consequences.
When your biggest problem for the night is just a glut of craft beers, it's a good problem to have.
It's good life. It's good life.
But Alex, do you find do you just have a naturally good drinking pace? Do you regulate yourself at all?
It depends on the bar that I'm going to. It depends on the atmosphere of the bar, what's going on, and also what's on tap. I know every time I walk into ABW, I'm usually looking for something I've never had before, but I know as the night progresses and it's getting closer to the time to drive home, I am looking for lighter things that aren't going to put me over the edge as I'm about to get in the car.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. So something lighter that you're gonna treat like something heavier.
Right.
So I'll get something lighter and then drink it like it's a stout. Just take a sip every once in a while.
Right.
Maybe give it a swirl.
Yeah, I mean even like I think porters are a great thing that can kind of slow you down because they have a nice roasty character, but they can have more of a medium body to them, so they aren't as drinkable. So
that's a solid game plan. A lot of good porters, I should say, are also in the 5 to 5.5 range too. So they're not huge.
Yeah, some of them hit 6, but yeah, they're usually pretty low in alcohol.
Yeah. The next beer that we have on tap here from Southern Tier, it's a beer that I definitely drink way too fast, especially in the summer. And Dan mentioned it earlier. We have the Live. And this is from Southern Tier's words, we have a citrusy session pale ale. So it's a session beer. It's only 5.5% ABV, which is debatable whether that's a session, but it is very, very drinkable. And I know when I have this...
It goes great with burgers.
Yeah, and it goes great with burgers, yes.
No, hose great with
burgers. Hose great.
Oh. Especially during the summer on a hot day, it's way too easy to go through a 6-pack of these.
Yeah,
it's happened quite a few times. Hot day or just nice summer night. Pick up that 6-pack, you've got it chilled, ready to go, and you're just sitting there and you kind of start to forget. Oh yeah, I'm 4 into this 6-pack. I might as well finish the other 2, so that I can go buy more Live.
Yeah, this beer is delicious. It's like lemony and there's like a nice light malt character to it, but it's extremely drinkable. Nice dry finish.
Yeah, and the lemon flavor is one thing I love in this because some beers have a good citrus flavor to it, but it doesn't make it too drinkable or thirst quenching. It might taste really good, like have a grapefruit flavor or, be paired with a lot of bitterness, but it's not necessarily thirst quenching. Whereas with this, it really is. And that's due, I think, to that lemon flavor.
You get a little bit of bitterness, and they use so much of that zest, and you can almost taste just that little bit of pith that comes with it sometimes, and it just lends itself so nice at the very end of it.
Yeah, the 5.5%, calling it a session pale ale. I mean, there's no true definition of a session beer, but from everything that I've heard, it should really be under 5%. But, 0.5%, I'm not really gonna.
No, it's gonna be a fun session.
Yeah, exactly.
So, reading on Untappd, Bradley W. says, it's a mix between a Saison and an IPA, but it finishes with that IPA dry hoppy shit. If you like IPA, you need to drink it. I say, fuck Bradley, he's a dickhole.
Tell us how you really feel, Dan.
1, I don't get IPA. 2, Alex, you agreed, I don't really see the Saison in this at all.
No.
The bitterness he's probably getting from the lemon, which is probably the biggest aspect and the most refreshing part of this. My problem, though, also lies in what I'm looking at, what he's drinking, and from where he's drinking it. He's drinking it from a goddamn Chinese restaurant, in which the line, it's probably been sitting there for months, the lines aren't clean, and he's also having it with a goddamn Corona Extra. So, I'm calling him a dickhole.
Although, I mean, to be fair to him, Untappd throws out a lot of badges. There might be a new Chinese food beer badge.
Well, for him, they should throw one for being a dickhole.
He's just making the rounds.
You get the dickhole badge. Write a stupid comment.
I like it. I think Untappd should put it in there.
One of my favorite things to do with the Southern Tier Live, though, is during the summer when Compass is out. I don't think it's out right now. It is one of their seasonal beers. But Compass is a great beer that, well, I love it at least from Southern Tier, and I think of it as more of a amped up live. It's very drinkable still. It's a bit more carbonated, a little bit different flavor, but still of a lighter ale variety, but it's at 9%. So one of the things I like to do at least is grab a 6-pack of Live, which is very drinkable. They call it a sessionable beer, and I happen to agree with that. And then I'll grab a big bottle of Compass, and usually just throw in the Compass somewhere among the drinking there. Works especially well around a campfire outside.
I've had the Compass before, and that's one I've kind of fallen away from. When I first had it, I was on tap at Aurora Brew Works. I loved it, and I was probably drinking glass after glass of it. And then when it came back the next year, I saw it in bottles and things like that. I was like, I don't know why, but I just don't feel like it.
Wait, so you didn't taste it in the bottles, and then you just saw it, and you're like,
I was like, I don't know.
Nah.
I actually went, and eventually someone must have bought a bottle, and I do remember drinking it. But I was like, why do I not fancy this as much as I did when I first had it? And I was questioning. I was like, I'm confused here. And not to say it's a bad beer, because I actually loved the combination with the roast hips and everything like that. It's just like, maybe it's just the wrong time of the season. It was just, I'd probably much rather enjoy the Live over the Compass.
Interesting.
Yeah. I enjoy Live over Compass too.
I'm in the minority here, but I'm okay with that. More Compass for me.
It's true. It's very true.
So the next beer that we have here from Southern Tier, and the first 3 of these beers are all year-round beers. So if you're interested in any of them, go out. A lot of stores have them. Go to your local craft brew store.
Go to Aurora Brew Works.
Pick them up. Go to Aurora Brew Works if you're in the Western New York area. Just be warned. You might get information overload there with all the different beers.
Over 750 to choose from. In cooler, out cooler, 6 taps, 12 downstairs.
Yeah.
You may go in.
It's like a Willy Wonka land of beer.
You may go in looking for Southern Tier and then leave with a 30 of something else.
Just remember to pick up the Southern Tier as well as those other beers you do get. But yeah, they're all year round, and the third one that is year round is the Porter. So that's the one we're tasting next here, and this is also one of their earlier brews, coming out in 2002. So the year of their inception.
I'm desperately trying to warm this up, and my glass cup is still too cold for my taste right now. It's almost like drinking a little bit of like iced coffee.
I think there's a real strong roast character to it, but it's real earthy.
I'm actually getting a little bit of spice on this. I don't know if it's... I almost got a little bit of a chili note from it before. Picked up. I don't know where it came from.
I'm getting the earthiness in there. I really haven't picked up on any chili notes, though. Is it in the front or in the back?
It's extremely subtle.
Is it chili or is it like a green pepper?
Oh, there we go.
Maybe a little, maybe a green pepper.
I'm not exactly sure what does it, but I know certain
There's something with
dark,
a bite.
There's certain dark roast malts that can add like a green pepper type of flavor. I'm not exactly sure where it comes from, but I just know that I've tasted it in a lot of dark beers.
Yeah, now that you said that, I do recognize a bit of green pepper there.
Yeah.
That, if anything, that just enhances the earthy quality of it for me.
Mm-hmm. It's very creamy, though.
Yeah, it is. There are some porters that tend more towards the, I don't want to call it watery, but a bit of a weaker side. But this, you're right, it's very creamy. It's definitely not one of the weaker porters out there.
Mm-hmm. And it's still pretty light in body, but it has a nice creamy mouthfeel that makes it feel big.
No, I bet I'm getting
Bigger.
it from hints of caramel. It's that smokiness that I'm getting off of it.
You get a little smokiness in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Especially from that, maybe not from, but combined with the roasted character that really comes out in this porter. I agree. It's a great combo. This is the first beer we've had today, which is a bit more practical for the weather outside.
Yeah.
Which
Which isn't frightful right now.
It's not frightful. It's relatively warm for
Sun's
Western
coming
New
out.
York. We're in the
Supposed to be
30s.
60
but,
degrees next week.
oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Ooh.
We're getting closer. Closer to more just packs of live and bonfires and
Yay!
barbecues and bikinis.
I can't wait to see Dan in his bikini.
I got a lovely two-piece outfit for you, Alex. Nice polka dot retro kind of thing going on.
Coming soon to your Brain on Top's Instagram.
Maybe I'll just go trash and get an American flag one. Be patriotic about it.
For our July 4th episode. Dan in an American flag
Salute you.
bikini.
The image in my own head is just frightening. It's like
take
flossing a walrus.
It'll take a lot of Southern Tier Live to make that happen.
Wait, I have to switch
We'll move to the
compass.
compass.
We'll have to upgrade. Okay, so switching away from Dan in a bikini. Our next beer that we have
Why
here,
would you want to do a thing like that?
That's why we. Moment of seriousness. I apologize, listeners, for that discussion of.
Don't apologize to them.
Our next beer here is the 2 Espresso. It's darker beer. Obviously, a lot more coffee flavor in it with a name like 2 Espresso, and it's relatively newer. They've only been brewing it since 2014.
Now, is it 2 Espresso or is it 2 Expresso?
Oh. I don't know.
Either way, it's really good.
Either way,
It's
delicious.
like, I get that green pepper character again. Not really getting any of the lemon peel. I know you guys mentioned you were, but
We both got it in the middle of tasting it. It doesn't come up front. It doesn't stay with you. That coffee stays with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it sits and lingers for every sip you take. But that lemon goes away very fast. And actually, I like this. It's got that creaminess from just that milk stout, and that comes up, I think, more up front. And reading the Untappd, one person said great with that ice cream float, and that actually would probably be really damn good.
yeah.
I could definitely see that with an ice cream float. I agree with the green pepper. It's both in the nose and in the flavor, just very prevalent. Which I'm not saying that's a bad thing with this beer at all. I happen to like that green pepper aspect to it.
Yeah, you too.
The lemon though, the lemon peel, I didn't get it at first, but now that I've had it open for a bit and I'm tasting it, I'm starting to get it in the back of the mouth. A little bit of that lemon flavor coming through.
See, I don't like green peppers, and as soon as you'll crack this bottle open, that's immediately what I got. But this flavor develops so nicely as it warms up. So I'm just sitting here just swirling it around in my hand. Just keeps getting better.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, as far as warming up beers go, the Wall Street Journal had an article within the past week or two, and it was just on warm beers, which I thought, oh, that's interesting. It's cool that they're featuring an article on this. But it was a bit of a twist. They didn't mean warm beer in the way that a lot of people mean warm beer nowadays, which is just room temperature beer. What they really meant was a warm beer, a beer that you would warm up on the stove.
Essentially
that's
hot.
really meant. Yeah, a hot beer. And really used in cocktails more. Mix some spices in there, maybe put something like some brandy or some cognac or some rum in with it, and make a bit of a beer cocktail. But not the beer cocktails nowadays, which are typically the cold drinks, but a hot beer cocktail. And that was a great idea. And I've never really experimented with hot beers before. I've had warm beers, room temperature. This is a great example of a beer you really want to let warm up.
In terms of hot drinks and things like that, like with us being in Buffalo right now, kind of end of the season, but I actually did get a chance to do a couple hot toddies, things like that over the winter this year, and usually it's that you're using, I believe, ginger beer to warm it up, but usually in wintertime for me, I do cider, which is always a classic staple. If you're an adult, a little bit of spiked mold cider always goes a long way. So
Now, do you mix the ginger beer with the cider?
Oh no, so ginger is for the hot toddy.
Oh, separate.
So, but
drinks.
What I like to do actually in the wintertime is just get the crock pot, and I actually learned this from one of the owners at Aurora Brew Works, and he did it for one of the specials in the store. I was like, oh, this is delicious. Go find whatever cider that you like, and it will actually dries it out tremendously. And so I usually go for local here, Mackenzie's. Mayer Brothers, the Special Reserve, because it's got so much more of a cinnamon flavor to it. And I usually add that right to the crock pot. I'll just crack open a 6-pack, dump it all in, hit it with some allspice berries, clove, and cinnamon, add a splash of brandy, and then just some sliced orange, and then you just hit it to low, let it warm up, and then I can probably just sit there and drink that all day, and I will drink that entire crock.
And that's what we call a good day.
It's a warming day, snow's falling, you sit there with a nice good hot mug, cozy on up, read a book, just take it easy. That's, maybe go sledding or something, put it in a thermos,
How about you, Alex? Have you had any hot beers or hot drinks?
No, not really. The only time I drink a beer that's warm is when I warm it up myself, some of the bigger ones like this, or a barley wine, or anything that's like cask conditioned. Those are the only things I've ever had, so really just room temperature.
I say we try out one of those hot beer cocktails. They sound delicious. We have a few weeks, maybe a month or so of cold weather left that's really appropriate for a drink like that. So listeners, stay tuned. We'll report back on whether it's a success or a failure, whether you should try it yourself.
Beer, it's always a success.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Dan.
So the next beer that we're drinking is another one that can warm up pretty nicely. It's the Back Burner Barley Wine. This one comes in at 10.5%, which is pretty big.
Yeah, the biggest one we had tonight. And this is kind of neat because they made this back in 2012. And then the one we're drinking now is a new batch they made for 2016. So it's a bit of a rare beer there. It's only available once in a while. And the first thing I noticed when I sipped this beer was it didn't have the typical booziness that a barley wine has. Mm-hmm. Now that I've been drinking it for a bit and it's warmed up a bit, I do start to get a little bit of that. But otherwise, the sweetness in here, I think, helps really mask that boozy character that a lot of barley wines get.
All that nice blackstrap molasses.
I do get a hint of molasses in it, but along the lines of the booziness, I get it more in the nose than in the actual flavor.
That's true.
But I'm getting tons of raisins.
Yeah, raisins, kind of a sweet, sugary flavor from raisins and just kind of darker fruits in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, it mixes together really well. Great color, too.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It has a decent hop presence, too. Like there's a nice, firm bitterness in the back that I think kind of balances out nicely.
I didn't really pick up on that, but now that you mentioned it, that's definitely there. It might be, too, with the beers that we've had previously, especially starting off with the IPA. Just kind of masked it, but
yeah.
That bitterness is nice with the barley wine. So, Dan, what are your thoughts on the beer?
Fuck you, Chris.
I see you tasting it over there.
That's kind of pretty much all I'm doing. I have no kind of intricate thoughts. I was just letting you speak. I speak.
No intricate thoughts.
No.
Let's
A
go
lot of brown
basic.
sugar and dried fruits is what I'm picking up. But after the 2 espresso, I'm not feeling this one.
Now, is the 2 espresso flavor still kind of dominating?
Yeah, it's still in the kind
Really?
of the back of my mouth. I'm just not really. I don't know. Not what I really want right now. So I am letting you guys talk up this beer, and I'm just gonna watch.
Let's go basic then. Do you enjoy the beer?
Yes.
As a barley wine, if you were in the mood for barley wines, you would enjoy the beer.
Probably wouldn't be what I go towards. I'd probably go for, if I'm usually it's a barley wine, it is a strong, like, it's more of a viscosity, and it also has almost a booziness to it.
Okay, so the sweetness in this almost detracts from the quality of the barley wine to you.
I wouldn't just say it detracts quality. It's still a good beer, just not digging it.
Okay.
It's just not his style.
Not,
Yeah,
not right. Just not right now. Just not me.
Yeah, I get that. Actually, just speaking of the booziness with this beer, one beer, it made me think of a beer that we all had recently, Higher Math from Dogfish Head, which recently at Aurora Brew Works, they had a Dogfish Head tap-takeover, and they had the Dogfish Head a rep out there as well. And one of the beers that they had on tap was Higher Math. And that beer, it's one of their green cap series, 17% ABV, so it's a big beer. And most of their other green cap series, they either mask the booziness completely, or if it's there's just so much else going on. But with this beer, the Higher Math, I got a lot of booziness in it.
They call it a golden ale, don't they?
I think it's
It's a
Yeah,
it's a
golden ale
golden
with
ale
cherries
with
and
sour
chocolate.
cherries.
Right.
I think they included chocolate in there too.
Right.
Yep.
I think with such a light flavored beer, it's kind of hard to mask those flavor that boozy character. I mean, if you think about 120, you have hops to really mask that. You think about the Worldwide Stout, that's a big malt bomb. You know, like you have enough character to hide that booziness behind. With that beer, I mean, cherries and chocolate. And I don't think the chocolate is that. I mean, it's there, but I don't think it's like very present.
I agree. It wasn't that noticeable, but along the lines of hiding the booziness when you have that much alcohol, they might have been trying to do that with the cherry. Right. Because immediately I got a lot of booziness, and then right after that I just got such sweet, strong cherry flavor. Mm-hmm. And once the two kind of started mingling together, I kind of appreciate it a little bit more. But my initial sips of that beer, it's just... It wasn't that great, and part of that might be due to just the high esteem I hold the Green Cap series and Dogfish Head in general too.
Now, when you had it, Chris, did you let it kind of sit, mellow out, warm up in your hands when you did that?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I did sip it, so I did warm up, especially towards the end there. Because
what I found was I've been kind of getting mixed reviews from people on whether they really like it or they don't, and what I keep telling them, I'm like, is I had it for the first time and I had a mixed reaction, honestly. Something about the flavors just wasn't jiving. And then I realized, I'm like, wait a second, this is a high ABV. I think it's better when it's just got a slight chill to it, which I think helps out with that booziness. I don't really want to let it warm up too much in my hand because I'll pick up on it more. And 2, I think this is a beer you have to sit on. So that's why I bought like 3 different bottles of it, and I'm just going to sit on and wait because I definitely picked up like this is going to get a lot better as it ages.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, don't turn away from it. Like, you had it once, that's great. Taste it again. If you can, I just buy 1 bottle, sit on it, and then take a year or 2 years off, and then come back to it. And I bet it'll be a completely different animal.
Well, if they release it every year, then maybe from here
Tasting
on,
party.
Exactly, vertical tasting.
Although I thought it was a beer that was especially for their 20 years.
Oh, was it?
I thought that's what it was.
It was, yeah. I think it said that on the bottle.
I thought they had an anniversary one. 20th anniversary.
I thought that was the Higher Math.
No, they had another one.
I remember seeing 20 on the bottle, though. This might have been a case where they've just had a couple different ones that they came out with for their 20th. Maybe even unofficial anniversary beers.
Yeah, maybe.
But in any case, I mean, if they do brew it again, it would be interesting. And yeah, aging is a fantastic idea. I agree. Especially, this is the perfect kind of beer where you have some good flavors that kind of need some mellowing out.
But the higher math was kind of their, I guess, the start for 2016, kind of just the new stuff that Dogfish is coming out with that we talked about, I think, on episode 1. And so ABW had a lovely collection. They had the Romantic Chemistry that came out, the Beer to Drink Music to, which is
so good.
That triple is amazing. I love that beer. But we had talked about some others, which I'm looking forward to when they come out. Those are, because so right now, Dogfish Heads to me seems to be hitting it out of the park. Not that they've never missed before either.
It is nice to see it. They're at the point where they could kind of sit back on their laurels, but they're not. They're making new beer, great beers. And yeah, I think it was either the first podcast, I think we posted on our Facebook too, a bunch of beers that they had planned for 2016. So getting to taste it pretty early into 2016 was pretty exciting.
But yeah, it was the higher math was that golden ale that I wouldn't let warm up. Unlike the Worldwide Stout, let it warm up, hides it great. The 120, let it warm up, doesn't matter. The Immort Ale even, just you want to sit there, you don't need it ice cold. This is the first time I had
is really good.
Yeah, this is the first time I actually had this high ABV Dogfish beer. I was like, I need this a little bit colder.
Yeah, and being at Aurora Brew Works, it wasn't just the taps, but they had a randalizer going for one of them too. Wasn't a newer Dogfish beer; it was Piercing Pills, kind of a good stable beer to mix some flavors into. And what was it they had? It was
raspberries, blackberries, and cinnamon.
Yeah, and that was a great combination there.
Yeah, it was. It was really good.
That Randall is a great way to introduce flavors that you don't think of. What was the one that he did? They had done one with coffee and actually I think it was coffee and lemon that Baker had done at one time, and I just can't remember the beer he used though.
That sounds pretty. I don't think I was
They've
there
done
for that
some
one.
weird things at Aurora Brew Works. Mainly Skittles was one that got thrown in there, which can kind of go really weird.
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be a part 2 to the Skittles.
A couple other bars, like they've taken that thing and they've done special events before, and we had one. It was I think mango habanero, I think, and maybe cilantro. I think they had randalized something like that.
I remember that.
And
I think that one was a lighter. Was it a pilsner or a lighter ale?
Yeah, it was a lighter. It was a lighter beer. I can't remember all this.
That had a good outcome.
So, more Randall.
Yeah, I agree. I think Randalls are awesome.
It's a great way to actually. I would just think the Randall is a great way to just not even like you can just to mess with the flavor profile that you didn't think of before. So now you have your beer. Maybe you made something like, all right, it's really nice. Now you can just make a completely new beer just by doing that. It's like, all right, maybe when I brew this again, I add some of this to it. Now I've got something special.
Right, and I mean, it's a good way to even test out, like, oh, I want to make a wheat beer, but I want to make a fruit wheat beer. Well, what fruit do I want to use? I don't know. Just make a base wheat beer, and then run it through a Randall that's full of strawberries one time, cherries another time, and try different fruits along the way.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had a strawberry beer that I've enjoyed, though.
Isn't the Tweezin Ale from Dogfish strawberry?
It is.
I think it is, but I wouldn't say that's a beer that I've enjoyed.
It's actually one of the first craft beers I do remember having, and then I think it's gluten free, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
gluten free.
But there was something so sweet about it. I was like, this almost doesn't even. I want to taste like beer anymore.
I think it's a good beer for girls.
Or if you just like strawberries.
Or if you just like
just
strawberries.
really like strawberries.
I should reapproach that beer, though, because I had it a while ago. And I think it was in the midst of different beer tastings. So the unusual character of it might have just given me the wrong impression. But yeah, I'll have to revisit that soon.
But yeah, not many people do strawberry. I just think you just need so many pounds of strawberries per gallon of beer that it's like, why would you want to buy that much? Because the flavor doesn't come across as much.
Well, we're almost out of time, so let's finish off with a segment we're bringing back called What I've Been Drinking. We're each going to talk about something we've been drinking lately, because it was good, because it was bad, just stands out for some reason. So, Alex, what have you been drinking lately?
A lot of my own homebrew, because I've been brewing a little too much and can't keep up. But I've been doing a lot of Belgians recently. I did a Patters beer and a double. I did a Beer de Mars and a few others. But I've been buying the classic example of certain styles and tasting them side by side with my homebrew too.
How's it been going?
Pretty good. My double, I compared it to the Chimay double, and they were, besides the effervescence of the Chimay, I thought mine was pretty good, and the other people I was giving it to thought that it was pretty damn good too.
Now, are you trying to reach that style to get it to taste like it, or are you trying to kind of hone into that style and then tweak it to how you want your individual beer to be?
Well, I want mine to be, it's my beer. I don't want it to be a Chimay clone or anything like that, but just comparing it to a classic example of the style to make sure that I'm on point with certain, the yeast character is on point, and, based off of the yeast that I use, do I want to switch the yeast to try a different yeast strain for this double? Things like that.
Cool. And listeners, if anyone's curious about the process, a lot of times Alex will post photos when he is homebrewing onto our Instagram accounts, Brain on Hops. So definitely check it out, see what he's been brewing, different steps of the process, especially along as he does these kind of farmhouse and Saison beers and Belgian beers.
Mm-hmm. You can also check it out on Facebook, Buckley Brew.
Dan, what have you been drinking recently?
I've moved on, Chris. I have found a new glorious way to drink my beer. I've moved on from, not totally moved on, but just a new place. And I've moved from the shower beer to what now is the bed beer. And I'm enjoying a lovely mini keg of Bell's Hop Slam, on which I have actually kept by my bedside. I sat there just pouring them out ever so wonderfully, and then just watching TV and realized I might have a problem here. So I went back into the fridge. But I absolutely love those mini kegs. I've gotten the Bell's Oberon mini keg, and if done right, I've kept those things for about 2 weeks in my fridge. And
Nice.
still with carbonation and everything.
Oberon is perfect for the summer.
It's
Keep
definitely
it in the fridge. Yeah.
Best of the live.
So this is a big step for you. You've gone from shower to bath beer, but that's in the same room. You're in a whole new different room now that you're drinking beer.
I am, and we will explore that in a later date.
We will. Good for you. Well, what I've been drinking, it's not really a craft beer. What I've been drinking a lot recently is Guinness. And the reason for that is because I've been going a lot to this great fish and chips place near me. It's called Parker's. It used to be called British Chippy. It's in South Buffalo. But, just classic English-style fish and chips. So, of course, I'm going to get a Guinness to go along with
I
that.
thought Guinness was Irish.
UK-style fish and chips.
Still, Parker's absolutely delicious.
Absolutely delicious. But because of that, I've been having Guinness, once a week, a couple times a week now, just to go along with my fish and chips when I eat those. Thank you for joining us, everyone. That brings us to the end of our episode. If you enjoyed, please go ahead and rate us on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud or wherever you happen to be listening to us. And definitely check us out on social media. Like it was mentioned earlier, we have a Facebook account, Your Brain on Hops. We have a Twitter account and an Instagram account that are both at Brain on Hops. And we also have a website set up, www.yourbrainonhops.com. And also let us know if you want us to try anything specific. Certain beer, certain brewery, certain style. We would love to go ahead and get that worked into the show here. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.